Last fall, local resident and NHS member John McCallum presented the program Fighting on the Frontier, Colonial Rangers during the French and Indian War at our Nunda Museum. This video includes his presentation and a closer look at the interesting period items he showed us that evening. John, an experienced reenactor of both the colonial period and the American Civil War, took the audience back some 260 years, back to the time when Nunda was the Seneca village of Onondaga, and England and France fought the last of a long series of war over North America. As you will find out, an Englishman by the name of Robert Rodgers and his Rangers played an important role in the struggle for empire. John will also share what life was like for this new type of soldier. We hope you enjoy the program.
So my name's John McCallum. I've been reenacting for over 30 years. This stuff's all accumulated through our house on the walls. I love history. I was in Mr. Cook's social studies class, Mr. Willerick's. They got me all into this. It's their fault. But, okay, Robert Rodgers. This picture here, they have a painting of him. This was the first and only painting of him in 1776. Does anybody know who Robert Rodgers was? Or what he did? He was the first Green Berets. They started this, all the tactics that they use today. They do guerrilla warfare.
Speak up, babe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's this group called? Rodgers Rangers?
Rodgers Rangers, yes. Robert Rodgers.
Yeah.
He fought for the crown, British, during the French and Indian War. And you ever heard of the Battle of Snowshoes? They had two battles. They fought the French, the Milice, Ticonderoga, fought with Sir William Johnson at Fort Niagara. Fort Ticonderoga, Crown Point, Rodgers Rock. They had a lot of Native American Indians that were with them, the Akwesasne and the Mohegans, and the Mohawks. So they had a lot of Native American influence. They would live with the Native Americans and marry into their tribes and adapt all their ways. And that's how they got to be woodsmen. And they didn't necessarily run with the regiments. They were like the Green Berets. They went out and did all the tactical stuff. They didn't walk in a line and get shot. So
Just still can't hear.
they
Speak louder, babe.
sorry. So is anybody got any questions? I like if you ask me questions.
John, what time period are we talking about?
So when Robert Rodgers started his Ranger unit was 1755, and he ran with Gage, out of Boston, and fought a lot of skirmishes. And then towards the end of the Revolutionary War, or end of the French and Indian War, end of the Revolutionary War, when that started, he went to Washington, and he wanted to fight with Washington on the American side. And Washington turned him down because he thought he'd just come from England, that he would be a spy. So then he went to the British Army, and they took him, and that was 1776. They started Queen's Rangers. It wasn't Robert Rodgers Rangers anymore. And then it was like soon after that, it was the King's Rangers. So they went from Robert Rodgers to Queen's Rangers to King's Rangers. And there was more than just Robert Rodgers' unit. There was 8 other units that were Rangers. And they had 3 detachments of Indian allies too that fought with them. So
So did he only fight for the crown?
The Crown was it, yes.
I think I've recently learned, in school you hear about the Revolutionary War. The predecessor was the French and Indian War. Wasn't it in a series of wars? There was like, in a book you'll see 1757 to 62 or something, but wasn't there like multiple skirmishes?
Oh yeah, there was
30 years.
tons of them, yes, that fought through.
And they were part of that whole fight for.
Right, during the Revolutionary War too, they split up the King's Rangers and they fought under Benedict Arnold when he went back to the British and fought with them. And I have some of the weapons that they would carry. They would
We can't always see.
would carry this. This is a first model brown vest, weighs 8 pounds. This, they started out with this. It's too long for loading in the woods and running with. 8 pounds is too much.
It's like a Buckeyes weapon.
And then this, they would carry this too. This is a blunderbuss, and their shot would be like bird shot, some round balls, and they can run on. As they run, they could load this because it's got a wide mouth. Same with this. This is a lighter little gun here. And what they would carry, this cartridge box here, would have their cartridges on it. So they would more or less, let me do this. They would half cock. You would tear this off a little bit here, bring that. This is your safety. Pour it down, then get the rammer and ram it down. And then shoot it and then keep doing it. So it's not like a bullet.
How fast could they reload?
British could do 3 shots a minute.
Wow.
That's good.
So then they would carry like a tomahawk war club, just like the natives would. After a while, these would be a club. They would follow out. You would have a belly knife. They would fight hawk and knife.
Pouch.
Are any of those genuine from the era, or are they reproductions?
No, they're all repros, yeah. The guns are too, they're brand new but antiqued. They would carry, canteen. They wouldn't carry a lot, they're on the run, so they would have, any kind of a biscuit. They're flint and steel. Flint and steel for starting fires. They would carry powder horns for their powder.
Could you read the inscription that's on that, John?
This right here?
Yes.
He who wanders far from home with rifle, gun, and arms alone, strap me to his breast with pride, and there we shall keep his powder dry. This is just a regular cow horn. And this is the first American folk art too. They used to scrimshaw like their path home, maps and where they've been.
Their version of a bumper sticker.
Fold-in frying pan. Copper kettle. This here is just a stackable corn boiler. Another one stacked to the side. It all fits in here in this other bag. This here is a blanket pin. So on a cold night, you just take this off, wrap your blanket, pin that, use it as a cape. It's just another bag here. You saw the cartridge box, right? This is what you cut all your ammo in.
So when you
another tomahawk.
had, like, you half cocked it, and I see it moving. They tear the
Right.
and put some of it in.
You put some of it in here,
Yeah.
and you just kind of tap it, put that down.
Uh-huh.
Then you load the rest, take your rammer out.
And why is some of it going through the?
Because that's your primer.
Okay. So the spark hits the primer.
Right here, there's a tiny hole in here.
Okay.
So when this goes back here like this and shoots, this pulls this ahead, sparks it, ignites this powder here, shoots it in that hole, and then shoots the
And that's why you
projectile.
see the flash
Yes.
up near the face where they're aiming from.
Yes, that's why this here on the British line, this right here is a flash guard. So when this goes off, and that spark, the guy right here isn't catching that whole flash and hits him here. It's the same with this one. See? This one's a little different. That's a dog lock. That's your half cock there. It's just a little
Why do they
different.
call it a dog lock?
It's just another kind of a safety on them.
Isn't that what it looks like? Kind of? Looks like
I
a
don't
dog
know
to
if that
me.
looks like a dog. I mean, dog's ear. Dog's ear.
John, all your straps, this one on the bag, and those ones look like they have
Yeah.
quilling.
No, that's wampum.
Okay,
And it tells a story.
right. I was gonna say, is that all neat? Because you're
Yep.
something on your dress right now.
Yeah,
you
on my leg ties,
Yeah.
this are all Aquasasani, because up at Fort Niagara, being a Hoisington Ranger, well, I'm native up there, but I do Ranger too. That's the natives, that's our wampum, that's our pattern, that's our story.
But I think I was here for Jim Van Sickle did something, and his wife did what they call quilling. which-
Quill work, yes.
Yes, is that quill work or is that shells?
This is shells,
Okay.
just like here.
Yeah.
This is quahog. That's where they took the big oyster and they
Oh, yeah.
would roll it and make a bead.
Mm-hmm.
And these are French beads. These are all original here. They're just a red bead.
Very.
And they'd use it for decoration, you know.
And
Just
for,
shows
and for money and for history.
it's their Mr. T starter kit, you know, all that stuff. And this is a sergeant's coat. This is a British French and Indian War because it had no collar, because they would have the neck
Ascot.
ascot.
Is that wool,
Yes.
did you say?
Yeah, with linen, and linen is the white here. And when I do my native impression, this would be my trophy coat. They would give it to their natives to keep them warm. Or if the other side won, we'd steal it from them and go on that side.
Yeah, you catch those.
And then this is like a frock shirt they would wear. And then, you know, you wouldn't want to carry a lot of blankets. You want to be held down by anything. You might be able to run and get through the woods. So you just have like a sheepskin just to lay down on the ground, keep you up off the ground.
What is it on that jacket that denotes it as a sergeant's?
The sergeant's is the gold epaulets and the style of the facing, the way this is here. Had that a long time.
Are these all original pieces that really?
No, everything's reproduction.
Really?
Yeah. It goes down. And like this is my neck knife. So if you needed patch in your gun, if anybody muzzle loads, you cut a patch or cut your shirt, you just take this neck knife out and just. So you're not taking a big knife out. This is a British gorget. This is what the officers would wear.
Is that metal or?
Yeah, it's brass.
Oh, okay.
Good for taking your teeth out.
What is a gorget for?
Gorget, just your status as an officer. It would, you know, just show who you are.
Wasn't something you drank out of or ate
No, gorget. Yeah.
What else are you wearing there, babe?
I have a native bag that I could keep extra cartridges in here. It looks like there's a bead in there too. And this is all beadwork. And then these are all silver, just silver brooches and any kind of pattern that they would make out of silver.
So even though you were in the military in the service of the king, your uniform, with the exception of some of the what you have on the table,
Right.
was mostly personal.
Right.
So they
shows who I am and
okay.
even shows what tribe I ran with. You know, that's like it goes with the Gustolas with a Native American. You know, you're in the forest, tells one feather, you know, it's a Seneca, you know, or two up, one back, you know, that's Mohawk. And see, that's, or you can just tell by what they're wearing, like the wampum, you know. But the Rangers did wear the green coats with the fancy lapels, but they more or less, they dress like this, you know, long shirts, maybe a breech clout, if anybody knows what a breech clout is. I wear, tonight I just wore, these are British here, these are leggings here, and then moccasins. They would wear buckled shoes too. If anybody knows what buckled shoes are. Just a regular shoe with a buckle. At that time, that was the shoe that they would wear. And the tattoos, these are Mohawk tattoos. So, you know, they would adopt the way they did their tattoos.
They
Spoons.
do tattoos, they didn't go to the tattoo parlor, right?
No, they would use they would have ink, India ink, and they would have a tube and like a quill, and they would just sit there and spoons is bracelets, any kind of spoons, anything like that, just the.
So you're saying the Rangers, the Rangers were only on the fighting for the British?
Yeah.
And they adopted Native American tattoos and garb?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I always think of them as wearing the red coats and
No.
making themselves pretty good targets.
Just when they got into the King's Rangers, they got more regimental, you know, they kind of got away from doing woodsmen running around in the tactical stuff, not walking on trails, and, you know.
So they went from being guerrilla warfare type to
To getting.
stand out here and
Look at me. And the reason behind the red coat too was so your enemy can't see you bleed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but it can make it bleed.
You can fall down with this on too. You know? Yeah, that's the one reason they had the red coat.
Now you mentioned Fort Niagara. Is that the place that most of them worked out of and then went into the Great Lakes area?
Yeah, like it used to be called Fort Carillon when the French had it. And then when Sir William Johnson and Joseph Brant and, you know, the Rangers went in and took it over, they called it Fort Niagara. They even fought during the Pontiac campaign down there in Detroit.
Mhm.
They fought down there too, the Rangers did. So they had I have a paperwork I could pass around. They had a lot of battles they did. You know, Gorham's Rangers and Oglethorpe's Rangers out of Georgia. You know, there was a lot of. It wasn't just Robert Rodgers. But I think they do it just because it's famous and we know him.
Do you think any of the Colonial Rangers came down in the Genesee Valley?
Oh, I imagine they did. Yeah.
Into the Seneca villages?
Yeah.
How many Rangers would be in any particular ethnicity?
Oh, could be 40, 50. But one unit could be 1,200 guys, 1,300 guys, but when they went out on a tactical, it only probably be about 40, 50 guys. And they had, my wife and I were reading, they had a 17-year-old boy that was in the Rangers, and they got pinned down, and they had just a little food, and they went through their parched corn from what they took from another recent battle, and they got away from the French and the Oneidas, the natives, and it wasn't that they had to resort to eating their belts and their anything leather,
And
and then
each other.
cannibalism. So I was just wondering with that I don't think they were eating each other. Were they eating natives or, but they can't just go out and hunt when you're out in wartime, because one shot maybe, but a few shots shooting at deer or whatever, you're going to draw attention to yourself. So, can you imagine how skinny they were?
What they use for transportation, horses, was that ever part of
Oh
it?
no, foot, right on their feet, running.
Were they paid anything from any government?
That's why Rodgers was poor when he went to England. He died poor. He paid his own men. They didn't get really nothing, even though they were servants of the British Army.
But they did get their supplies, their powder.
Yeah, the
Well,
fort, any forts like Fort Niagara, Fort Ticonderoga, any of those, they could get their supplies. Yes. Yeah. And Indian villages, they get food from the Indian villages that they were, with. Other than that,
Sorry, it's a little off topic, but can you explain again that fire starter
sure.
situation there?
Anybody ever start a fire with flint and steel?
Is that what it is? I thought it was.
You have a striker, piece of flint.
And flint is steel?
Flint is a stone.
Oh, that's what I thought. So what did you say was steel?
This piece of metal here is a piece of steel,
Starter?
hardened from the blacksmith. So you take this, it's a piece of flint, and this is a piece of char cloth. What you do is you get a little tin bowl, it's got a lid on it, put a hole in it, and you have like a cotton cloth. You put that cotton cloth inside that, put it by the fire. When it starts bellowing white smoke, pull it aside, let it cool off. And that's what it is. It's real brittle. I'm not going to do it in here because it will start a fire. But you set it like this, on there like that, and then you hit down on that, and it draws just a small spark, and then it starts glowing. Once it starts glowing, you have all your stuff ready too, so you're not going off crap.
Where do you get all that stuff?
You got to gather it up, small brush. This is a piece of tow.
From
This
the
is
land itself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Birch bark is your best for starting fires. So then you have this tow, which is any kind of a plant, dried plant, any kind of, so you just put it in there like that, roll it over and just blow on it and get your fire.
That's like kindling?
Show them the spark without the anything to start a fire.
Is that all right?
Sure.
Up high. So people can see.
See that?
Ah,
And I keep it in this little container.
yeah. And you can just use it over and over all through?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I put it in this little bag right here.
Back to your about numbers, you said 1,200 were in, what was the name of that group? The Ranger,
Just,
Corps or something?
just, it's their unit.
Their unit. Did they divide themselves up into
Oh.
squads and platoons and regiments at all?
They would just put like so many with like Gage had some guys, you had Benedict Arnold, so they just kind of.
One might have 15 and the other one had 40. And
Right.
you said something about 40 was a common number
But-
in a group.
Like if they go out of a fort, there'd be like 40, 50 of them. Just staying within miles, you know, it's not like they're heading from Fort Niagara to Fort Ticonderoga with 50 guys, that wouldn't work. You would need more than that, yeah.
So they were basically the guerrilla warfare units for that fort.
Yeah, but if you had an infantry unit going out, these guys would be over here on the flanks, making sure no one was trying to flank them and take them over. Other Indians, French,
So they acted as scouts for the actual infantry.
yeah, with the natives, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not boring you that bad, am I?
No.
So there was a movie that was with Spencer Tracy, I think it was Northwest Passage, is that, it was Rodgers Rangers, is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it does show, I mean, part of that was, you know, a guy was carrying a man's head that I think was gonna eat, but he was a little bit rough too.
They didn't scalp them?
He was hiding it, and they eventually caught on, and he had it rolled up in this burlap.
Yeah.
I wondered if you could give us just a little bit of a timeline on this Rodgers of in the French and Indian War, where he was started, and, or what motivated him, you know, was he already a native of the United States?
No, he come right from England, come right over here, and they come out of New Hampshire. You know, and that was occupied British area, so they just kind of mustered them out, and they just went fort to fort, fighting on the frontier.
How did he end up deciding that he wanted to be kind of a guerrilla warfare? Because he would be one of the first ones to
Right.
to decide this was the better
Yeah, he
way
wanted-
to fight.
Apparently, he didn't want to be on a line. He wanted to
Well-
be a guerrilla guy. He wanted to get out there and fight, and you know, come over here and got with the natives, you know, and natives are the ones that influence them, you know.
Well, a lot of people don't think about it until the Revolutionary War. The colonists were British.
That's right.
And
Right.
they were fighting with the British against the French.
That's why they didn't say
French
the
and
British
British.
are coming. They said the redcoats are coming, or the regulars are coming, you know, it's.
Because for those French and Indian wars, our Native Americans plus the colonists plus the English were fighting the French and their Native Americans.
That's right. Yeah.
Ongoing battles for a long while.
Right. You know, it used to be called New France here.
Yeah.
You know, New
Oh.
France, when Champlain was here,
And the first contact
and the
was
Jesuits.
the Seneca had with the Jesuits that came from France, and I think eventually the natives, especially the Seneca, killed off the Jesuits, and they made it.
Yeah, they were the other white meat,
Yeah.
you know. My wife wouldn't let me wear my fingers this weekend.
What is Jesuits? Is that a religious thing?
They were the priests from France that come over to didn't want the Indians to fight anymore. They wanted to, you know, teach them the Bible and just
Oh,
not fight.
what was that?
Catholic missionaries.
Yeah.
Jesuit priests.
Jesuit.
A lot of them went back to France without ears and fingers.
It goes back.
They didn't go back. They were in the pot.
They also ended up being the first, I guess you could say, almost anthropologists among the native people, and they left behind wonderful descriptions from seen through their eyes of what the native life was like in the Great Lakes area and down the Mississippi. So they played an important role in our history.
Yeah.
But they were not good, they were
No,
enemy, or why did you say they were all gone or something? They were all.
the French lost.
The French lost the war, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so they were.
I'm sorry, I have to read my social studies book.
There's a great movie about that whole thing called
Black
Rose.
Rose. Black Rose.
It's pretty gory though. People get their fingers cut off, and it looks like they're getting their fingers cut off.
Yeah.
There's smallpox too.
Yeah, if you don't like that Indian, don't give him a smallpox blanket.
Don't give them a what?
Smallpox blanket. So.
John, you mentioned that you do reenactments at Fort Niagara. Can you tell how many have seen some of the? Have ever you been there at a reenactment at Fort Niagara? What would we see if we went up there, and how's it put together?
Well, we're the provosts up there, so when we do the weapons inspections and make sure there's no round balls, nobody takes their ramrods out. But we have like a Native American camp, and then you have your regiments and the native camps, and you have your ranger camps and your British and your French. So when we go up, it's more or less the battle of Fort Carillon. So the French are always in the fort with their Indians. So when you went up, you would go into the visitor center and wherever you wanted to sit and watch the battle. If you wanted to watch the British fight the French, you stay right by the center that you signed up to pay and everything. And then if you want to be in the fort with the battle, you could go up and sit on the ramparts and watch it all. Which that's pretty cool, is the ramparts. Cause we would go up there, and I fought with a French one here, and I sit up on the ramparts, and they're taking pictures of us. We're all painted up. And I asked my buddy to give me his camera. So a bunch of us natives stood up, and we're taking pictures of the crowd. And they just looked at us like, you know.
That's not fair.
But there's probably 2,500 reenactors up there this whole battle, so it's just shoot. It's a good experience if you want to see something. It's 4th of July weekend.
Do the reenactors then maintain their
Everybody
characters?
stays right in. You can walk through the camps and talk to us, and yeah.
Did that fort change hands like Ticonderoga was with the British one year, and next year might be with the French?
It stayed British after the French. It stayed British, and then during the Civil War, they had Union soldiers there too, and occupied that because they were afraid the Confederates were going to come up the channel there. But it's an awesome fort. Nobody's ever been there.
That's great. It's a field trip.
They say it's haunted. We stayed there. I didn't see anybody.
I remember seeing where the guys all laid out on a bunk for sleeping, and they had a little bit of straw. They're expected to be
And it's like
sardines.
it's on a slant too, so your feet are hitting this board and
Yeah.
you're laying back.
And you were right up against the next guy.
Yeah, and you wanna start them fireplaces like a week before you get there.
Because the stone takes a while to warm up.
Oh yeah.
Are you using weapons like this in your reenactments?
Yep, all these, yes.
Now these, even the replicas, they all fire?
Yes. Yes.
So you have fired some of these, if not all these weapons probably, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I got round balls for them and bird shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll get a bunch of our guys together and we'll go out and go up to state land or whatever and take one of these and shoot squirrels and it's fun. That's how we all should live.
Any more questions?
Oh, go ahead. Somebody hit one back there. The long rifle there.
The British.
Yeah. Okay. I watched the movie, which I like better than the book, and that's usually not true. But the Last of the Mohicans, Hawkeye.
He had a rifle.
He had a. That's not a.
This is a smooth bore.
Okay, because they, I think the Indians called him Le Long Carbine or something.
Long carabine.
Yeah. So is that similar though? Because he had a very long.
No, that was more of a rifle. What they would carry too, like the British Army, this is like this is a 12 gauge more or less, 7.55.
Uh,
It's a 12 gauge. So they can carry that mass loads of round ball. This is what you'd want to carry. This is a 28 gauge. But he probably had a 45 or a 36 because you could carry more rounds. Carrying a handful of these 12 gauge ones, it's a lot.
the longer the bore there made you more accurate at the long distance, right? The blunderbuss,
This is a
probably
500 yarder right here.
and the blunderbuss probably 50
From
feet
here
away.
to where Casey is back there.
Good for short range.
But this one is the one that I would always carry right here. It's light, and you can carry a lot of rounds in your bag, and you could do with this smooth bores, you could do buck and ball. That's what the Ranger load was. So it'd be a couple 36 round balls with a handful of shot. Throw it down there, and you could take 3 or 4 people out.
So in the French and Indian War or the Revolutionary War, there wasn't what we call modern day bullets.
No.
They were multiple balls in the.
No, they pour them down.
Yeah, but they were like different size and a whole bunch.
Yeah.
They come out in like the bird shot.
Yeah.
Nothing was a single shot. That's
Like a canister shot out of a cannon. It would just be a canister with any kind of size round ball, nails, whatever.
Okay.
You could shoot anything out of these.
Okay.
And for wadding, they use bee's nest or piece of your shirt, leaves, anything to keep it from rolling out.
I see.
Besides the right size round ball, that would seat in there nice, but shot would roll
It
out.
really wasn't until the Civil War that they actually had
The mini
mini ball, right?
Yeah.
Or mini ball or whatever.
And that was a twist in there that was for that. That was rifled.
Yeah, so it could spin.
Like a 1 in 32, 1 in 54, I don't know, but these are just, you see a line of guys and you just shoot.
Hope that they're close enough to.
But the Rangers were in a wood shooting out. They weren't on a line. They were shooting from the flank and on the sides.
The Native Americans from this village, Onondaga, actually were in the Revolutionary War of Oriskany. Were the Rangers involved in that?
Oh yeah, Battle of Oriskany. Yeah.
Because apparently the native chiefs, a bunch of them got killed, and they decided to fold the village and move up to Kylerville. And I was wondering, technically, I think the English held the field, but really they with their loss of their Native American allies.
That's like Braddock. You ever heard of Braddock's campaign? Yeah. Same thing. You had Daniel Boone and the Wagoneer in Braddock's campaign. All them Wagoneers, they scooted out of there. They want nothing to do with that. Fish King was there. George Washington was under Braddock, so. And Washington was the one that started the French and Indian War anyways.
And how's that?
Fort Necessity.
Oh.
Fired on the French and started the 7-year war.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't supposed to.
Any other questions? We'll have a time here to come up and John will show you the things close up. But I want to say, and if there's teachers in the class, if there's teachers sitting here, you know what it feels like to see a student in the subject that you taught do so well, and there's extra credit that I'll give you on Monday. I'll go out the form and we'll give you things. So let's have a big hand for John. And you are more than welcome to look around. I think we have some refreshments coming out. I don't know if John brought enough hardtack.
Yes.
Cool.